Alright, what's up everyone? I'm here to bring you a very important update on Synthetix SNX. I see a few very interesting things happening in the technicals. I want to talk about the key support and resistance areas that I think will be very telling for SNX in the short term here, and I want to talk about its long-term potential. So, if you like the sound of that, folks, please like, subscribe, comment, and share, and hit that bell icon to be notified of new uploads. As well, folks, I'll tell you why I was ringing the alarm bells on Synthetix back when it was below $8. I put it in my top 3 coins for this 2021 bull run, and if you would have been following us then and there, and if you'd been like, subscribe, comment, share, and if you'd hit that bell icon to be notified of new uploads, you could have been up well over 100% even still after the massive correction on Synthetix. So folks, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, stay tuned with us, because we're going to bring you the latest and greatest in TA. So, before let's really delve into the technicals here, I kind of want to bring up a news story that I feel bad for not having brought up before, which is it doesn't seem like it's just me who seems to like Synthetix. It seems like Coinbase seems to like Synthetix. A few investment funds just invested $12 million into Synthetix. Coinbase Ventures, Paradigm, and IOSG invested a total of $12 million into Synthetix. So I'm definitely not the only one who sees the potential with Synthetix here, and I'll kind of show you why, folks. So Synthetix, I mention often, Synthetix plays in derivatives, okay? And if we look here at all the players that play in derivatives in crypto, Synthetix is by far the leader in its niche. It has the vast majority of total value locked within its ecosystem, far ahead of anyone else in the space. Okay, we can see here that Synthetix has an 82%, nearly 83% dominance in the derivative space. Derivatives, for those who don't know, is just synthetic representations of assets. Okay, they can be highly leveraged. It's just basically fancy trading. Okay, and in the legacy markets, derivatives is far larger than the trading of the underlying assets such as stocks, and crypto it's the opposite. So I think crypto is going to mature as an asset class, and therefore I think derivatives is potentially destined to outperform the trading of the underlying asset class, sometime in the long term in the future. And so that is why I'm so bullish on Synthetix. It has been crowned the leader in its niche. It has by far the most value locked within its ecosystem, therefore the most amount of trust within the ecosystem. That is why I own Synthetix. And with it being in such a massive downtrend, having had such a massive correction, I personally believe it is such a steal. I wanted to bring you guys a video on a coin that I think had great fundamentals and that has still corrected and dumped quite a lot, because a lot of coins have corrected somewhat since the dumping that we've been experiencing these last few days. But Synthetix still is down quite a bit from its all-time highs. So I still think it's a great opportunity to get into Synthetix, and I want to highlight what I believe is the most important support and resistance levels for Synthetix to try and understand what's going to happen in the short term, which is the 200 EMA on the 6 hour, currently at $18.50, $18.60, acting as support, and the 200 EMA on the 4 hour acting as resistance, currently I'd say from $20 to $21.50. So we are right in between a strong support level and a strong resistance level right here. So we are pretty range bound between strong support and strong resistance. Whatever way Synthetix decides to break out of these two regions here, I think is going to be very, very telling for future price direction in the short term for Synthetix as well. I think currently the most important support level for Synthetix is the 8 hour 200 EMA, and as well, let's see if we can actually find a better EMA that we found support on exactly. Yeah, here we go. So I think this probably surpasses it, which is the 200 EMA on the 12 hour. That is exactly where we found support when we dumped, and which is currently in my accumulation box from 1450 to $16. So these green boxes are my accumulation boxes. This is where I think Synthetix is very likely to find support. There's a lot of support for Synthetix from $19 to $15. A lot of support in these regions. I would be very surprised if we fell below these regions, although it is 100% possible. We could definitely fall below these regions. If we cannot hold those regions, I think the next stop is $12. Aside from $12, I think kind of $8.90 to 750 would be our next stop, although I don't think that's very likely, although it is possible. Something that's 100% possible is that we could enter maybe like an August 2.0 scenario. So for those who've been around in crypto for a while, who've been around during August was quite significant because we had a DeFi rally back in August for the whole market. Everything pumped in August, then September came around and everything crashed. Everything consolidated for weeks. But what happened after? What happened a few months after? Everything corrected, everything reached all-time highs and surpassed it. So I think something similar could theoretically happen if Ethereum and Bitcoin continue to tank. I think those are going to be the kind of gauges that we need to look out for to try and understand what the market as a whole is going to be doing. We're going to be following this very closely the next few days, to trying to understand what kind of price structure Ethereum and Bitcoin start to hold, because that's definitely going to have an effect on Synthetix. Let's take a look at our indicators to get a sense of what's going on. Let's take a look at the daily to begin. So daily is bearish. Daily MACD on the way down, weighted MACD on the way down, stochastic RSI on the way down, regular RSI on the way down. Daily is bearish for Synthetix. Let's take a look at the 12. Okay, 12 hour, we are starting to see some signs of some strength. MACD, histogram starting to tick up. Weighted MACD seems like it wants to have a bullish crossover. Stochastic RSI, bullish crossover on the way up, and RSI oversold, having a bit of a leg up, making a higher high. Very interesting. The 12 hour is starting to see some strength. 6 hour, just an extension. Look at this. Everything is on the up and up on the 6 hour as well. Ooh. I noticed something interesting, which is this. Look at that. We're forming a very, very clear resistance line on the RSI, okay? If and when we start to get bullish divergence above this red line, I think that is going to be the thing that decides, and that I think will be the giveaway that Synthetix is breaking out bullishly. Once we get bullish divergence above this red RSI, the RSI starts to go above this, hold above this, and make higher highs above this red line here. I think the price action for Synthetix is going to increase. So that's very interesting. 6 hour ultimately I think does look strong. It looks like we're getting bullish again. 4 hour. We had a bullish crossover on the MACD, although the histogram is starting to tick down, so it might not be the strongest bullish crossover. It doesn't seem to be very strong bullish divergence. Look at that. Weighted MACD curving, looks like it wants to have bearish crossover. Stochastic RSI on the way down on the 4 hour bearish crossover. So it's not super strong bullish divergence. Let's take a look at the 2 here. Yeah, so 2 hours just an extension. Yeah, histogram on the way down, weighted MACD on the way down, stochastic on the way down. So interesting. Yeah, lower time frames aren't looking so hot. Yeah, so ultimately, folks, just to kind of summarize what we're seeing here, larger time frames do look bearish. We're starting to see some signs of some strength. Ultimately, I think the most important thing to understand short-term direction, and because we look bearish in the lower time frames, I think we're going to retest, and which we are, but we might hover around these lower regions around 1850, 1840 for a while. Ultimately, I think we just need to follow the 200 EMA on the 6 hour and the 400 EMA on the and the 200 EMA on the 4 hour. A lot of numbers, folks. I get confused sometimes. You got to forgive me. But look, ultimately, these are the two support regions, support and resistance regions that I think we're range bound from. Okay, whenever we break out of these regions, I think will be very telling for future price action for Synthetix. Once we these red levels, these red resistance boxes are what I think are the most valid resistance levels for Synthetix. The more of these red boxes we tackle, the higher I think we can go. If we can tackle and get above all-time highs, I think $30 is probably where we could experience some short-term rejection off of. It's a nice psychological level. It makes a lot of sense. But aside from $30, if and when we can tackle $30 and get above, I think that next impulse takes us to like $34 to $35 for Synthetix. Now, over the long term, I'd like to say Synthetix, I think, has a good chance of reaching the low hundreds of dollars. $100, $200, $300, I think would be reasonable over the long term, by September, October, November this year. But ultimately, I always find it difficult to give long-term price predictions really on anything because nobody knows for sure. They're just guesstimates for fun. But even more so with Synthetix, because Synthetix is in a league of its own because of its niche. Derivatives, the ceiling for derivatives is much higher than the market as a whole because derivatives, you're playing with synthetic assets, and in legacy markets, those synthetic assets, the value in that market is so much higher than the trading underlying assets. And I think something similar could happen in crypto over the long term. So it's really hard to gauge like a long-term ceiling for Synthetix. I would just say that whatever the ceiling is for the market as a whole, whether the market can do a 10, 15, 20x before this bull run is over, I think the ceiling for something like Synthetix and derivatives is much higher than whatever the market as a whole can do. So those are kind of my thoughts with Synthetix here. These are the most important support and resistance levels for Synthetix. Ultimately, in terms of scaling out long term, I think this bull market is likely to reach some kind of peak with Bitcoin September, October this year. And I think Synthetix and the altcoins are likely to reach their peak roughly a month after Bitcoin, because the altcoins reached their peak a month after Bitcoin last cycle. So I think something similar could happen this cycle around. So I'm going to be looking to scale out more so based off time frames and less so based on specific price targets. Whether it's, if let's say October, November rolls around and it's time for me to sell out of Synthetix, whether it's at $100 or $1,000, I'm going to be selling based more so off time frame. So those are my thoughts with Synthetix, folks. If anything interesting further happens, we'll definitely be talking about it here and in our Discord group. Link to join that will be down in the description below. As well, if you like what we do, you want to support us, consider becoming a Patreon member. You get access to our VIP Discord group where we talk about low cap gems, interesting setups, that kind of thing. Now, before I leave you guys, because I would feel bad if I didn't mention this, I think I can't stop mentioning the Bitcoin dominance chart, okay, because it's a very important chart to understand what is going to be happening with the altcoins and really the market as a whole. So let me bust out the Heikingashi candles. They're good for understanding trends. Whenever Bitcoin dominance rises, altcoins typically suffer. Whenever it falls, altcoins typically benefit. For those who don't know, Bitcoin dominance is the total value of Bitcoin in comparison to the total value of all cryptocurrency. Okay, so we're currently experiencing a bit of a rally. Whenever Bitcoin dominance decides to go for that leg down, that should tell you, and that's going to tell me that the altcoins have more gas in their tank to continue pumping. If we continue to rally in Bitcoin dominance, that's going to tell me that it's going to further place the dampers on the altcoins. So this is going to be a very important chart to keep our eyes on moving forward to understand when it's time for altcoins to start pumping again. And yeah, so those are all my thoughts, folks. I think that's most of the important stuff anyways. Thanks for watching. Take care.